everybody! Thanks for joining me for this Take a Turn or Two with me playing Brew. This is a new game for 2 to 4 players, and depending on the amount of players, it really will take you about 45 minutes on the shorter end to 90 minutes. But I'd say this is a right there in the middle hour-long game, particularly if it's your first time playing. I'm excited to share with you those overall mechanics and the overall flow of the game by just playing a turn or two in that very first round of Brew. This game takes place over 4 rounds, and each round players are rolling dice and placing them as dice worker placement, and there's also an area control component to this game. Now, it might sound like you're actually brewing beer, perhaps. I think that's what I thought when I first saw this name. You're actually brewing potions. This is a game that has these magical creatures that you can train. There are also these potions that you can brew, and then you can cast potions that allow you to manipulate your dice in the game and the particular placement of dice as well. I think that despite the really high player interaction here, where players can change outcomes that players have executed in the previous turns, essentially, there are ways to mitigate that, and there are ways to kind of combat that with other abilities or strengths or potion cards. So I don't think that it's overwhelmingly attacky, even though there is that element to this game. So just be prepared for that. At the very beginning of each round, players are going to roll their dice. Each player has 6 dice, 4 of which belong to them. They match their player character color. And the other 2 dice they roll are generic element dice, in which there are 2 fires, 2 winds, and 2 water symbols. After players roll their dice, starting with the very first player, everyone will place 1 die on their turn. They may choose to brew a potion, and they may choose to drink a potion. The brewing and drinking of potions is optional on your turn. It is mandatory to place at least 1 die. You might get the chance to place more than 1 die, but every turn you take, you have to place at least 1 die. After you've played a die, brewed a potion, drank a potion, it's the next player's turn. So you will just go clockwise around the table, players placing a die, and so forth. Once you're out of dice, you're out of the round. And any players who have remaining dice will just play theirs in player turn order. At the end of the round, players are going to check for the forest control. That's the place in this game where you have the area majority control. So you'll check to see who has the most, and you have to have the most to claim the forest. And those forests are going to be helpful in a variety of ways. They are worth victory points, and they also pair with creatures of the same type. There are 4 different types in this game. There are the seasons. So you've got spring, winter, summer, and fall. Creatures will also give you end of round bonuses, so make sure to check for those. And then at the end of the round, you prep for the next round, unless it's the end of the game, in which you just finished your 4th round. In this sample game, I'm just going to play the generic basic character. Now, all of the characters in the game come with the basic side, which doesn't have a special ability. And then on the other side, you can flip it. If you are advanced or have played the game before, I would recommend playing with these. They are asymmetrical powers that characters get to activate when it says so. They're really cool, and I think they make the game a little bit more strategic. Let's jump into a close-up of all of these components and the cards, and I will explain everything as I start taking a turn or two of Brew. During setup, every character is going to get an energy berry. This token essentially acts as a wild for one of the 3 major tokens in this game. And so that berry can be either the blue, the purple, or the orange. I get to go first, so I place the T first player token right there. I've rolled my dice. My opponent has rolled their dice. And now it's up to me to figure out where do I want to go with my dice selection. So the first thing I can do is I can actually go to the village. The village allows me to gather resources, activate powers that work in the forests, or allow me to get potions or creatures. So over here are the creatures. If I have a water symbol on my element, I can go here. Unfortunately, I did not roll one. But if I go here, I could get a blue, purple, and orange. I assume my opponent will probably do that on their turn because they were fortunate enough to roll that in the very beginning. However, I could place my flame here. And what that says, it says remove all element dice from all forests. Now at this time, there are no element dice in the forests, so that's not going to be helpful at this time, but it can be incredibly helpful when you're looking for who's going to win majority control. Not only is each player vying for area control up here with their forage dice, they're also competing against the neutral white element dice. And so I'm not able to beat my opponent by simply putting more of mine than their forage dice. I must also place more of my color than there are the white element dice. And so that creates a really interesting dynamic up here. The other place I could go to is my wind. I have a wind die, and it says gather 1 energy berry and reveal and reserve 1 potion. Now, when you brew a potion, you're essentially buying it, and you buy exactly how much it says up here. You have to pay that cost. So that's 3 of the blue shards, that's 3 blue and 2 purple mushrooms, 7 of those, and then 1 of each of the orange and the purple. The victory points are in the corner, and so you'll get victory points. Now, brewing a potion means you take it into your hand, and during that turn or at a later time, you can drink it. And drinking it means you're placing it down and you are doing the action at the bottom. Whether you actually drink a potion, you get to actually earn the victory points. So you can actually keep it after just brewing it and you still get the victory points. If you play it, you still get the victory points. But when you reveal and reserve a potion, you're revealing an extra card and you are now going to select one of the 5 and you're going to place it into your area essentially down here. It's not actually brewed yet, and it's not available for you to drink it. You still have to do the brewing and drinking. You're just saying this is a card that only I want to build. This is a card that is not available to my opponent. So those are the 3 element places that I can go. You can place any die. You can place an element die or a forage die into the any die section, and you can do any number of them. So I can go there multiple times, my opponent can go there multiple times. Down here, only 1 person can go in each of those spaces, so those are restricted. Here, I can just gather any 1 ingredient of my choice, the blue, the orange, or the purple. I'm not allowed to get a berry. Over here, I can train any creature. Anytime you see a tusk or a horn, I'm not sure exactly what that is, you get to train a creature and you simply take 1 of the visible creatures and you just stick it in your trained side. That says trained, and I can have up to 3 trained creatures. That's all you do. You just take 1 and it reveals the 1 underneath it. Now these creatures you want for a variety of reasons. They have really cool abilities that are in the round. When you activate it, it says so, or it has end of round bonuses. They give you a victory point, and you also want to pair them with forests that you have won in your area control at the end of the round. So this is a spring animal, and this is a spring tile. This will be not worth 1 point at the end of the game if you pair it with the forest that you've collected, but it will be worth 3 points. So that's really, really cool. The other places that I can put my dice are up here in the forest area. You must match your symbol with the space, so I can put a rock on a rock, and then I collect what's underneath it. Done. That was my turn. Very easy. Here I need one of those twig branches. Here I need a flower. I do not have a flower as of yet. And then over here you're going to see all of these. This is a divided season. It counts as both winter and summer, which is pretty cool. You're going to have some abilities down here that ask you to place things. You get bonuses if you place them in a particular season. Over here, you've got a fall, which is entirely fall, and it's worth 8 victory points. That one's worth 7, that one's worth 4. And then they also give particular bonuses. You'll notice that there are the little creature tusks over here. You can also get creatures, not just at the train the creature space. The other thing you can do with your element dice is use your elements in the forest. Now, if you use your elements in the forest, they can go on any space. Obviously, they're not going to match, and you are going to be able to do something really cool with them. So if you place your fire die, you place it on top of any placed die in a forest, and the covered dice do not count for control. That's pretty cool. You get to cover up somebody else's die. The water element allows you to collect 2 more of the ingredients shown. So my opponent, let's say they don't go here because they don't want 1 of each. Let's say they go here because they want 3 oranges. They get 1 that's depicted, but if you place the water symbol, you're going to get 3 of that particular kind, which is pretty awesome. The wind allows you to exchange your wind die with one of your placed forage dice, and you return the forage dice to your pool, which means you get to use it again and place it somewhere else. So let's say I place my rock in this space, like I said before. I will then put my wind die down and replace my rock, returning it back to my zone. I also will get my placement, which is the orange bonus. Alright, so I'm the very first player, and I'm going to place one of my dice. I think I'm going to place my rock here on this card, which means I get to train any creature. I'm going to look at these creatures, and I will select one and place it in my trained area. I'm going to take this creature that says when I place a die in the village, I get to gather an ingredient of my choice. And that could be either the element die or the forage die. Remember, this is the village. It's my opponent's turn, and they are going to go exactly where I thought they were going to go. They would like to collect 1 of each of the resources. Now, on their turn, they're still allowed to brew a potion and drink a potion if they'd like. They're going to brew a potion. They pay 1 purple and 1 orange, and they're going to collect this potion that says re-roll any number of your unplaced dice. It's also worth 2 victory points. So they keep this in their hand. I'll just set it right there, and we replace the potions. They are not going to re-roll their dice at this time, but they do have the possibility of drinking it. It's a one-time use. They're going to save it for later. So it's back to me, and I will choose to place one of my forage dice here, and I'll take a purple. That's my turn. I'm done. I don't want to brew anything. I actually can't. I don't have enough resources right now. It's back to my opponent. They're going to take their rock, and they're going to join me in this forest area up here because they start to see that I already have 2 points, 1 in each of these forests, towards the majority control, and they don't have any. And so at this point, at least they're tying, which means nobody gets the forest. Back to me. I'm going to place my wind here. Now, it says I get to gather a berry, so I'll take a berry, which is a wild. I get to reveal and reserve 1 potion, so I'm going to reveal this one, and I will essentially take one of those so that I can potentially brew it and drink it later. I'm a fan of this card. This card says change 1 of your unplaced dice to any face. It's worth 3 points, and I have to have 3 blues to buy it. So I'm going to place it here because I've not purchased it yet. I've not actually brewed it. The other thing is when I place in the village any one of my dice, I get to gather an ingredient of my choice. So I will take the blue. It's back to my opponent. My opponent is going to put their flower here on train, and they're going to train one of these particular animals. They're going to train this particular creature. This creature says when you gather from a forest, gather 1 of the ingredients shown. So they probably are going to go to the forest section next, unless I actually place my twig there and we tie. My turn. I could go there. I don't feel like it's worth it to push for a tie. The card is worth 6 points. That seems a little risky. No, you know what? I'm going to go there. I know they're probably going to get mad at me for getting a bonus and then they can't even go there, but they should have thought ahead of time. I'm going to place that there and take a purple, and that's the end of my turn. So my opponent is pretty frustrated with me for taking up the spot in the forest, but they do have something they can do that's pretty cool. So they're going to place their wind die and replace, because that's the ability of the wind die. They're going to take this one back. They do get to collect an orange. When they collect from that forest, they get to have an extra one based on their character cards. So they get 2 of those oranges because of that. It was pretty clever. Now, I do have majority in this area because it's 2 versus 1 versus 1 at this point. So it's my turn. I'm going to take my rock and I'm going to place it here, gather any ingredient, and when I gather an ingredient in the village, when I place in the village, I get to have another one. So I'm going to take that and I'll pay my 3 blue so that I can actually brew this particular card. So I'm going to pay that back. This is brewed and I can actually drink this. It says change one of your unplaced dice to any value. So I could do that if I wanted to change my element die. I don't think so right now, so I'm going to hold on to my card. Back to my opponent. They would like to place a rock here and get get 1 orange. I don't know why 2. They're going to get 1 orange for that. My turn. So on my turn, I could do a couple things with this flame, but I think what I'm actually going to do is go here to train a creature. And I'm going to train this purple creature. And one of the reasons I'm going to do so is because at the end of the game, if I match my seasons with my creature color, then I actually get 3 points instead of 1 point. So I'm picking this strategically so that I can hopefully get points at the end of the game. Now at the end of the round, I gather 1 wild of the berries for every blue active creature. Now I don't have a blue creature just yet, but maybe next time I can get that. Don't forget, I also get an ingredient of my choice for placing on the map. So I'm going to take a blue. And with my blue, I could theoretically buy this because I have 1 blue, 2 wilds that could act as a blue, and then 2 purples. What I think I might do instead is buy this card. So I'm going to brew this card, and it costs 1, 2 blue, and 1 purple. And I'm going to put it into my brew. I am not going to actually drink any of my cards yet because I have cards that won't help me until next round, I think. That's the end of my turn. That's the end of everything for me because I'm not able to place any more dice. My opponent, though, gets to place 1 die and then place another die. So what I think they might do, because it's really advantageous to them, is place a die here in this section to prevent me from getting 7 points automatically. They're not allowed to place in that flower section because they can't place flowers. They only have a rock and a twig. But they place here and they get 1 of those symbols. Oops, let me replace this guy. And then it just comes straight back to them, as long as they don't want to play their card. They might want to play their card. Their card says re-roll any number of your unplaced dice, so I could theoretically roll this rock and just hope that the person would get a flower and they could win this card for 7 victory points because they're already going to win this one because I have no presence on that. And that's 6 points. So this might be a really good time to roll. Let's actually do it. When you spend your potions, when you drink them, you tuck them under your card and then you do what they say. Remember, you're going to get victory points for it. So I'm going to take their die and we're going to roll it. We're going to roll, and rock. They got a rock. Boo! I feel so bad for them. So they're going to place their rock where they think they can get the coolest move. They can come over here and train another creature. They can come over here and gather an ingredient. They can come up here and get a purple ingredient, but they've already really gotten that area control, so it's not anything that they're really interested in doing. And they only get a bonus if they gather from a forest. So maybe this person wants to actually gain one of these creatures. Maybe that's a good place to go. They're going to come over here and they're going to train a creature, and they're going to maybe get this. This says at the end of each round you gather 1 wild ingredient per active fall creature. Well, there's a fall creature active, so they're going to go right there essentially you can splay them, but we're running out of space. And so they're going to get a wild at the end of this particular round. To replace what they just spent, they're going to brew a potion because you get to brew one potion and drink one per round. They already drank one, but they didn't buy one yet. So they're going to spend this to buy this card, which is what they just used. So now they've got another reroll ready to go. All right, it's the end of the round, and we are going to go through the end of round sequence. You are going to claim control forests. So up here, my character controls this forest very clearly, so it will go into my possession. This forest is a push. Nobody gets this forest, and it goes over here to our discarded forest over here. Yes, my opponent successfully got this particular forest. They're going to keep it in their area. The next thing is use the end of round creature powers. This says at the end of the round, I get a wild berry for every fall creature. So this person's going to get that berry. Mine says I get it, but I don't have any winter creatures. So I don't get that for my character over here. Then we are going to take all the dice back. We're going to refill the 3 forests, and the player will turn. And there's one more thing. Got to clear the area though to make sure we actually get to see it. We get to flip the board from day to night. And now this board has different stuff on it. Let's see what we get. Ooh, we got a lot of divided forests this time, which is perfectly fine. And we've got this side. We haven't talked about scorching, but all you do when you scorch something is you scorch a space and nobody can go there. That's a really cool thing. That says scorch all the empty spaces in one forest for just 1 flame. Up here you get to trade your resources for wilds up to 3 times. And down here you get a wild berry and you get to train a creature for your wind. And it's this space up here you get any ingredient and you get to reveal and reserve a potion. So, at this point, we are going to start round 2. My opponent gets to begin. We're going to gather all of our dice, and we will roll them and begin placing. I'm ready. Thanks for joining me for this turn or two of Brew. I think it's a pretty cool game, despite being right on the border of my comfort level with player interaction, with player attacking other players with abilities, and the kind of essentially reversing your turn on your turn. The reason I think it's okay is because there are ways to mitigate it, and even if someone removes a die that you placed, when you placed it, you still got the bonus and the action when you played it. So even though you really want that die to be on one of those forest cards for your majority control, it's okay. There are essentially ways to deal with that or to rebound from that. So that's why I say it's okay, and you can't get your feelings hurt too bad if somebody does something, because it's actually built into the game with the potions. They allow you to swap dice and take dice away and do super cool moves like playing other dice or re-rolling your dice. And so when you think you have your opponent figured out, you can look at their dice and you say, well, they don't have any forage dice that have this particular symbol depicted. Don't just assume that they have no way of manipulating that outcome, because they might have potions that they can drink on their turn that allow them to do really cool things. So I like that there's public information in this game. I like that there's private information that allows you to do really cool things. And I think that the cards are really interesting in the forest area because of the abilities they give, because of the seasons that they depict, and because of the victory points that you can earn based on the number at the top. It's actually really dynamic and fun. I see this game being shared and replayed. I like that it's between 2 and 4, and I can imagine a 4-player game taking much longer than a 2-player game, simply because on your turn you have to play a die, maybe brew a potion, maybe drink a potion, and so turns might get a little lengthy with people thinking about what they want to do and really assessing what everybody else's potential turns are. So in a 2-player game, you just have half the amount of people taking those turns. So it might be great to jump into this as a 2-player just to kind of get the feel for the game. but I like that there are two sides to the board. There's the day side, the night side, and each of those have very different actions for the element dice, and so you're not always locked out of certain things because you can never get there. Player turn order changes, so people have different opportunities to collect what they want and when they want, which is really, really cool. So if rolling dice, placing dice as worker dice placement, and area majority control sounds interesting to you, they really hit that sweet spot, I think Brew's going to be super, super great for you. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.
Hey! Learn to play a game with Kim. Take a turn or two. Learn to play.
Area control? No. Area majority control. Area control majority. Area control. Area majority control.